Hey everyone, today I've got 10 points to help you get the most out of your training. And we're going to start with a quote from Ken Blanchard. So feedback is the breakfast of champions. All right, so let's get stuck into it. Step one or point number one, there's two challenges when it comes to feedback. One is not enough and two is too much. Okay, so sometimes you can go through a couple of classes feeling like you don't get any feedback, and at other times you can feel like you've had a one-on-one feedback session and you're just overloaded with too much feedback. So there's a difference. There's point two, specific feedback versus generic feedback. So specific feedback is if you're lucky enough to get like a one-on-one session with your sensei, your mentor, your boss, whoever it might be. You can sometimes often get like lots of specific feedback directed right at you about what you're looking for. Okay? Or generic feedback is when you're just going through the class and the instructor is giving the whole class generic feedback. We've got to plug in and make sure that we're taking on that generic feedback and understand that feedback is for us too. It's not just, it's for Mary next door, it's for Fred up there. No, it's for you too. You want to make sure you take that on. So the pros and the cons of each of those two are the pros are specific feedback is that you get very specific feedback. The con is that sometimes you can get a lot of it. And when it comes to the generic feedback, when it's just coming out to everyone, the pros are it's generally not overloading, doesn't feel too much. And the cons are sometimes we don't take it on as it is ours and we feel like you haven't gotten any feedback. Okay, point number 3, check your mindset. Are you in the gap or the gain? And I'll try and explain that. So when you get that feedback, you can feel like, I'm not getting enough feedback. Well, you're in the gap. Like you're not taking on that generic feedback. Or I'm getting too much feedback. And like, are you in the gap or the gain? Are you feeling, oh man, I suck. I'm getting all this feedback. I'm no good. Yeah, or are you in the gain? I'm like, wow, this feedback is awesome. I can get this and I can make notes on it. I've got stuff to work on over the next few weeks. If I don't get any more specific feedback for another month, 2 months, I'm going to be fine because I've got all this specific feedback to work on in my next upcoming classes. So are you in the gap or the gain? Point number 4, write it all down. Get your journal out. Write it down. Make sure the sharpest mind is blunter than the bluntest pencil. Is that right? Something like that. You know what I'm talking about though. Write it down while it's fresh in your mind. Step number 5, decide what's in alignment with your specific training and development goals. Decide what's in alignment with that. What are you working on right now and how does this feedback relate to exactly what I'm working on right now? Step number 6, create action plan, action steps on what that feedback is and how do I implement that into my training? How do I become that stuff? How do I take it from feedback? Wow, this is great, I've got feedback, to how do I put this into practice? Step number 7, what sort of time schedule do you have will determine on how necessarily you train best for you. So if you've got loads of time, you might just go to another class tomorrow night or the next night and go to loads more classes. And within that class environment, you can work on that feedback. As long as you're clear on what it is you're wanting to work on, you can work on that feedback. If you don't have that much time, don't stress, because ultimately the other option, working at home, doing home training, is quite often more beneficial for you than doing another class, okay? Because you take that specific feedback, those action steps, and you get specific with your training, and you do that at home, and you just work it. Buy a couple of cheap mats. Have a little space where you can train. You don't need a big space, but you do need somewhere where you can just train. If you can get some mirrors, then perfect, amazing. Have your little own home dojo. I tell you what, your training will take off. Okay, all right, now step number 8 is to take action. So practice those areas of gain, like practice being in the game, practice if you don't, you can have all the journal, you can have all the feedback, you can write down an amazing plan, you can have great action steps, and you don't take action towards it, you haven't benefited, you ain't got it. You're missing the point. You've got to actually get in there and train it, okay? Train those areas. 10 minutes a day like we spoke about yesterday, perfect, right? Okay, now number 9, from the training, you will then have questions. Geez, I thought I understood that, but I don't really get it now. And I've moved that next point, so what's the next step? And so write down those questions, get those questions in there. I don't know how many times in a karate class I go, any questions? And everyone looks at me like a deer in headlights. All that says to me is you're not doing your home training. You're not developing yourself. You're not taking your karate on and your self-development seriously. You're waiting for sensei to tell you what to do. You're like, here I am, I hear. Great, step 1. But step 2, like, you got to take an active role in your training, which means you're going to have questions. You're going to write them down. You're going to want to ask questions. And if you're asking questions, you're growing, you're developing, you're serious, you're the squeaky wheel, you'll get more. I guarantee you. Okay? Now, step 10 is the secret sauce. Or point number 10 is the secret sauce. Share with someone else. Help someone else get what you've got. Teach. Mentor. This is where becoming an instructor is a massive benefit in your training, because you get to constantly give. You fill the cup up. Once it gets to a certain point, you can't get any more in there. I'm full. How do you get more in there? You have to tip some out. Find someone to tip out to. Find someone to share with. Find someone to build up. Find someone that you can pass on to. And then that will help you understand it better. Makes more room in your cup. You're ready for more. Tip some more in. I hope one or more of those points is helpful for you. I hope you've taken something from it. I appreciate you listening. 7 minutes, one of our longer ones. So if you're still listening, good on you. Awesome. Make some notes, make some changes. I'll see you in the dojo. Thank you.